All right, Aliens 4, the podcast. Shh.
Wait, is this the fourth one or the third one?
In 1979, we discovered in space, no one can hear you scream. In 1992, we will discover on Earth, everyone can hear you scream.
Welcome to Should You Watch This with the Popcorn Priest, a weekly podcast where movie enthusiasts, ex-movie theater projectionists, new and old friends take the time to talk about a movie that we just watched and answer that very question, should or shouldn't you watch this? The movie poster says 3 times the suspense, 3 times the danger, 3 times the terror. Find out if this is a lie.
What?
By joining us for our review and breakdown of Alien to the Third Power from 1992. All right, and welcome back to Should You Watch This, the exciting conclusion to our Alien to the Third Power review and breakdown. This is part 2.
This is going to be dope.
And this is where we get into some spoilery issues of the movie.
So many.
All right, so I have some options for you guys. You can decide. You can choose your own adventure.
Yes.
I have some notes, some predetermined notes from all of my hours of countless viewing of my old DVD collection that I had back in 2003. Or we can go through our categories.
And hope we don't miss any of your notes?
No, we'll go through both. You can decide what we would like to do first.
I want the notes.
All right.
Notes. I'm with Ryan. Angry Dane.
All right, notes first. So, like I said, I have this amazing Blu-ray set from 2003.
It's extensive, audience.
And it's like 9 discs. And I bought, for this actual journey that we're on, I bought the new Blu-ray versions because they don't effing exist in 4K yet. Only one does. Well, three of the 6 do, but not all of them together. You can't buy them together. And the set that I bought that has all 6 together doesn't have any special features. Like, they're all stripped out of it. So in order to get any of those really cool things from the past, you either have to go find your old blue DVDs from the 2000s,
like Chris,
like me, or you have to buy them individually. And you may or may not get those special features. So some of the stuff that I'm about to review, you might not be able to get a hold of. So
it's exclusive.
Yeah, and I think that that being said, it's really interesting that Fox put this together because it's very damning. Like, a lot of the interviews that I watched were like, we're sorry. We're sorry that we made this.
We know how you feel.
We also felt really horribly during the filming as well. So,
do you think they knew during filming it was going to be the worst thing ever? Did you think that they were like, no, guys, we're going to tie it all up in post. It's going to be sick.
To give you an idea, David Fincher was contacted to be in any part of these reviews, and he declined all of them. And the only things you get to see of him are these really sad pictures of him. Like, he's either got his hands like inside his hair and he's crumpled over in like disgust and anger, or he's sitting on like Indian style on the floor watching a tiny monitor of the production, and he's just all by himself, alone,
kicking garbage cans. Correct. There's a photo of that. So slapping people.
So if that's not enough preface for all these notes, so first they hired Rennie Harlin to direct, and he
I don't know who
wanted.
that is.
I was gonna say I don't know who that is either.
Okay, well,
I'm Googling it. You can keep going. I'll Google Rennie Harlan.
he is he's done things.
He's done some things, guys.
Rennie
Harlan,
Harleen? Harline?
Hairline?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Rennie Harlan.
I mean, not to be weird, but his girlfriend's hot.
So
Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger, Long Kiss Goodnight.
yeah, he's done some good things. Cliffhanger, yeah, Die Hard 2, exactly.
Say the other one that he said.
I didn't.
A long kiss. Good.
But
Long.
then he did
long
man.
kiss
The
goodnight.
Covenant. I don't know. He did some better ones.
Every one of those is
Oh,
better
dude,
than
he
this.
did Cutthroat Island, the one that killed the production studio, Carlico Studios.
Oh, okay.
One that killed Carlico Studios. Mm-hmm. Carlico. Right?
He has a
Did I
lot
say it
with
right?
Gina
Carlico.
Davis.
Carolco.
Carelco. That's better.
Yeah.
Yes, Carelco. Anyway, he was at the time, he was a premier director, and he wanted to go back to the origin of the alien planet. That's where he wanted to go with the story.
Yeah.
And the studio execs said, "Cost too much. We want the aliens to come to Earth."
This is the biggest budget they had. They could have done that with this budget.
Correct. So he said, "Nah, I'm out." So he left the production, and he didn't
know
li-
from me, dog.
Yeah, he said, "I'm out." So they hired him. They had other directors they were talking to, but they hired this guy. He said no, and then they hired Vincent Ward next, who's an Australian director. And this guy, there was already a teaser out before they hired this guy, and the teaser that they said it was going to be coming out in 1991, so a year prior. So it took them a long time to film this. The teaser said, "On Earth, everyone can hear you scream." So they're already saying these aliens are coming to Earth. Didn't happen.
wow.
None of that happened. So this guy, his vision is of monks. So not what we see in the actual movie. There's a version of that in the movie, but not how he envisioned.
Like more traditional, like Shaolin monks.
Like with cloaks and they're like
Chanting.
and they're so the way you would see this movie, you would come in on a monk like with these reapers, and he's like harvesting
Scythes.
grain. Yeah, he's harvesting grain. And he hears like a big booming sound, and he's going to investigate. And he climbs up this like wooden ladder. Everything's wooden around him, and he pops open this hatch, and his head pops up through, and he sees this weird lake bed, this natural lake bed, but on the exterior of a planet. And his head is about, I don't know, 3 or 4 feet below the atmosphere that could kill him, and he sees the crash landing of the pod that Ripley, Newt, and Hicks was in. Mm-hmm. And so they would proceed to get these guys, and Newt drowns in that one.
Immediately, Newt is dead.
Newt is dead.
Why are they? Why?
And Hicks also dies in the crash, and so he rescues Ripley and takes her down into this monastery. And so it's this planet is built around a mechanical, furnace type thing that keeps the atmosphere going. But these monks are like, we don't want any. They're kind of like Amish. We don't want any electronics, so they build wood around everything. And so their whole world is a
Where are they
wood
getting the
planet.
wood?
I don't know. That's what the producers were asking. They're like, "Hey, how do we do this?"
That's
And
you don't need that. You have aliens already.
so he writes the script. He takes it to the producers. They're like, "We kind of like it," and they ask him to leave the room. So he has to go outside the studio exec's room and wait for an hour while they talk about what he just presented. Then they said, okay, we're going to do it, but
They'd already had a teaser, and he's presenting a brand new script.
Different story than the teaser. And so they said, yeah, we're going to do it, but we have all these notes. So they have all these notes. And so now they're making calls behind his back to the script, changes to the script without him knowing. Well, he finds out that all this is going on behind his back, and now he's like, I'm out. I don't want to do this.
How long did he work on it?
Many, many months.
So they say yes?
Yeah.
They don't tell him that they're going to make changes.
And that's when they start making the sets. This when we talked about last week in part one, the 7 million, exactly. Those sets were starting to be built around his wooden planet.
So even the set designers didn't know that the producers were making changes either.
No, and there wasn't a full script yet. Just an outline, they call it. So this guy, he's like, they fire him. They're like, we don't want you anymore because he won't budge. He's like, this is my story. This is what I'm doing. So they fire him, and they can't get anyone else. So
for how long?
It was months, and they're still building sets while this is going on. So David Fincher, he's a guy who's been doing like music videos and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's always wanted to get into a picture, and his agent's like, hey, there's this. And he's like, oh, that would be great. I love Alien. I love, Ridley Scott. I love James Cameron. And his agent's like, I don't know if you want to get into this, man. You have to have had like a Jaws or an E.T. prior to this to be able to come in and say, okay, I can do whatever I want. They're going to be hounding you the whole time. So he's hired. He says, I want to do it. And throughout all of these like interviews, both directors are like feeling super sad. They're like, we felt so bad for Fincher. We knew that this was going to be a wreck. That's why we left. That's why we got fired or whatever else happened. And isn't that crazy? And so there was all these...
That's before David Fincher even begins.
Correct. And there was going to be all these crazy, like, cool imagery of, like, aliens going through wheat fields or, like, aliens grabbing... what are they called? They're, like, in the bathrooms. And they're, like, pulling aliens through the toilet.
What?
Pulling the monks through the toilets, like scenes like that of these, and they don't have any weapons, and you can see where a lot of
some of the no weapons and the monks like stayed.
Yeah, all that stayed, and the only thing that stayed was that part of it. Oh, and they were supposed to, in the end, go into a glass blowing facility. And that's how it was supposed to be killed in the monk
So they
version.
kept elements of that.
And they kept elements of that, too. So David starts production without a script. And he calls it a cart before the horse, like literally is that. And while they start shooting, they had 3 months. So the sets were being built. They shut the sets down for 3 months, and they're trying to figure out how. They're like, we can't do anything without a script, but we're starting to shoot. So production was shut down. The line producer got fired, so they had to find a new line producer. Then they're trying to get new creature designs from H.R. Geiger, and they brought him back, and he agreed. He's like, I want to come back. So he designs these amazing, cool new designs because Fincher's like, hey, I want like a dog type alien. So he makes one, and it doesn't look anything like what we saw in the movie. It's like this like puma looking alien, and it's super rad. And it has a different tongue, not like the same kind that like comes out the mouth, the extra mouth. It's like this barbed, slithery tongue that like goes in your mouth. It F's your mouth. And then it pulls back. So the barbs like just tear everything that's in your insides out when it comes back out. And it had lips.
Ew.
So it was like this really weird, grotesque thing. All that stuff didn't get used.
Why?
I don't know.
I want to see
You didn't
that.
like the Jason and the Argonauts dog?
No. Too.
He also created. So there was going to be 2 aliens: a dog alien and an ox alien.
There were going to be
Ox?
twice as many aliens?
Yeah, yeah. So they were supposed to have like brought Ripley's like pod, dragged it back with oxen.
Ooh.
And that's where the alien comes out of the water and gets into one of the ox. And it comes out as just this big mammoth size ox alien that he designed, also cut from the film. He was sending these, he was.
Did you see artwork of that?
Yeah, it's all on the DVD. It's beautiful.
We got to see this.
It's
I want to
really
see
cool.
an ox alien.
And so he's just doing all these designs, and he's doing them the width and length of a fax machine because that's all he has, because he doesn't want to leave Germany. And then he finds out that they're not using his stuff, so he just goes dark. Like he won't talk to them. Like he invited their creative people to come and meet him in his studio, and he said no. He's like, no, you're not coming. Sorry, you guys don't use my stuff. You're on your own. And so
Why wouldn't they use his stuff?
Yeah. Because they were like, there was no script, and they were like, well, we don't know where this creature's going to fit into the non-script.
But they know where the monks and the no weapons fit in.
Yeah.
This is a
So
train wreck.
he's like basically right. I mean, you heard it last week. You know, there was stuff that they would shoot, and then the next day it would just be cut because there's like, we don't know what we're doing here.
Who was doing that? So who wrote the final script?
It was written along the way. Fincher helped, and the studio gave all their notes.
What?
And he would have to shoot all day, and then he would spend hours on the phone at night telling the producers like what had happened, line by line throughout. It was like someone over his shoulder all the time, until ultimately they shipped a producer, and there was guys behind him while he was directing through the whole last part of the
Nightmare.
It sounds horrible.
That sounds terrible.
Get this. Another horrible thing that went wrong. Jordan Cronowith was hired to do the lighting. He did Blade Runner lighting for Ridley Scott. So they had this amazing lighting guy. After 1 week, he gets sick with Parkinson's and has to be replaced. And so they started lighting all these beautiful things. And Fincher's like, okay, well, we got this guy. It's going to look amazing. He gets Parkinson's and has to be replaced with somebody else.
Parkinson's.
And the guy who replaced him was like, I tried. He's like, I tried. I can't do what this guy who did Blade Runner. And they were like, who's this young guy? All the people in the UK were like, didn't really want to support him because he was really young. They didn't know who he was. And he would like sit, like I said last week, Indian style, in front of a monitor instead of directing like normal directors. He wouldn't be looking at the action. He would be looking at the frame, which I guess is kind of cool because he's seeing what we're seeing. And so they're like confused that everyone's looking over here and he's looking down on the floor at the monitor. So everyone was kind of butthurt about that. So I told you that the ox scene was cut.
That sounds amazing.
We also didn't get to see a queen face hugger. They designed this abnormally large queen face hugger that was going to be implanted into the ox so we'd get another queen. That also got cut. And it was cool. It was like black and really big and really gnarly fingers. And it had like webbed areas on the edge because it was too much bigger. And the tail was like 3 or 4 times as long. It was cool.
That's
And
legit.
also, Angry Dane, you were right. The alien was puppeted.
Yeah.
So they had
Well,
little guys with little like posts, and they were like puppeting him, but they couldn't do it for too long because it was too hard for them to rotoscope them out back in 1992. So it was only in parts of it. And then they would switch to the guy in the suit. So it never really like matched very well.
Yeah, the puppeted parts. I even wondered if they were stop motion. I don't even know if I said it. Did I say it was puppeted? Okay.
Yeah, it was puppeted and stop motion.
Oh, okay.
Both.
Okay.
Both was in
There was one shot that totally looked like,
For sure. Looked like Wallace and Gromit.
or like those Harryhausen. What's that dude's name? That old school.
Yeah,
effects guy?
Harryhausen.
Yeah, they looked like Harryhausen things from like the 50s or whatever.
Yeah.
From Frankenstein.
From Jason and the Argonauts and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
All this is happening. The studio producers are now on set. They're filming during one of the worst winters the UK has ever had in Pinewood Studios, where James Bond's filmed and all these other famous movies are filmed. And the studio says, we're stopping filming. They don't wrap. They stop. They just stop filming. There was a year between they stopped filming and when they started reshoots.
It just sat for a year.
So they took it back, all their footage. They cut it down to 3. They had a 3 hour, a little over a 3 hour cut that they showed to the producer, like everyone. And when it was over, everyone was just like, it was crickets. And everyone's like, oh, this is what we paid $50+ million for. And so they're like freaking out, and it didn't have an ending at this point because they didn't finish it. They had to shoot. They had to get another $15 million to do reshoots, and that's why we had the bald cap for Ripley, because she already had her hair growing back after a year.
A year.
What a mess.
And
I'm surprised it wasn't worse.
Well, yeah, the success of the other two, right? Or this movie is dead.
Well, I'm surprised they
Early.
came up even with what it ended up being. Like, from what you said, it should have been just horrible.
Dude, it feels exactly like what Chris described. That's how the third movie was. It was horrible. I mean,
But I think it, like, the fact that they came up with that, with all of that mess on the production,
yeah, like
I'm surprised they finished a movie.
yeah.
yeah, well, and they had to film that whole new scene without money of the alien coming out of the molten lava or molten what was it, metal, whatever.
What?
Can't remember what it was, but yeah, it was
And then
some
they
sort of.
pour the water on it and it cracks. And,
Oh, yeah.
and explodes. That was all done in L.A. and not.
Which actually was cool.
Yeah,
That was one of the coolest parts when she dumped the metal or he's coming out and then she puts the water on him. That was dope.
all that wasn't. They didn't know what was going to happen.
And the water might have been the only real thing that ever carried through from any of the feeling of the other movies
yeah.
was that there was that kind of wet metal feeling, at least.
Yeah. Well, and that was, to Angry Dane's point, that was one of the first times they started interspersing digital effects.
Oh,
Was that
yeah.
the cracking, that one little bit, and some of the shadows, they said. Everything else was, puppets or practical effects, which I think hindered. They tried too hard on that, and it didn't look great.
It didn't look right.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. That early stuff all kind of looks bad. That early CG, like early 90s.
So those are that's what I found out about the production. It was unbelievable.
Dude, you told me that they took one of the other scripts. Who wrote that? Someone else wrote a script, and then they made it into an audio production.
That
on
was
Audible.
one of the first ones. Right after, so there was so many. I think up to 9 different scripts out there. But the one right after the one that we're going to go back to the alien planet, they had this other script of them going to a space station. And that one
It's awesome.
was recreated for Audible.
It's
like
awesome.
an Audible original.
It's called Aliens
Came
3.
out in 2018 or 19.
I don't know. I don't.
And it's
remember.
on Audible, and they have Bishop back as a voice actor on it, and Hicks, Michael Biehn, voices his character, reprises his role, and it's really cool. It's like a really cool movie. It's like an audio play.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's got
really cool.
sound effects and music, and each character has their own voice actor.
So check that out if you want to hear what may have been.
2019. It's going to be available until December 31st, 2099. In case you're worried, I'd get it quick.
Well, so that's my research. I only have a couple of popcorn trivia.
Let me tell you something, pendejo.
And so the popcorn trivia is I tried to get as much as I could from his mouth because he's never on any interviews. He's never on any like special features
for him.
And he just basically divorced himself from the film. But before I do that, James Cameron, director of Aliens, strongly disliked the film, and he was pissed that they killed Hicks and Newt and Bishop were killed off so quickly, and which he basically trashed his whole ending of the movie.
Yeah.
And he was just like,
the audiobook does not.
Yeah.
That's it's
why,
like 2.5 hours. I'm like an hour and a half in. It's way better.
So skip this and listen to the audio.
Seriously,
you
ever
could
watch this movie.
Unless you're like a super fan of
You know
Alien.
what?
Should you watch this? No.
You know what, though? You should watch just so you can see the super weird white baby queen alien thing.
No.
That thing is terrifying.
That's in the next one.
Shit. Okay, then don't watch this movie at all.
Spoiler
Oh, yeah,
for
I
Alien
forgot.
4.
That
Also
is
spoiler
Alien 4.
for Angry Dane, but okay, so I have three
It's awesome, dude.
from the mouth of David Fincher. This is what he felt about the movie. He was interviewed a few times, and he doesn't really talk about it when he's interviewed. People ask him all the time, and he kind of brushes it off. So this is what I could find out. So this is an interview with The Guardian. Fincher: I've been doing commercials and videos for 8 or 10 years before anybody gave me a shot at making a movie, and I wish they hadn't. The Guardian: the film we can't mention? Yeah, let's not. But there's this fantastic quote that I found where you said Alien 3, that a lot of people hated Alien 3, but no one hated it more than you did. I had to work on it for 2 years. I got fired off of it 3 times, and I had to fight for every single thing. No one hated it more than me. To this day, no one hates it more than me. Have you grown to like it since then, Alien 3? He says, God, no. And that was the end of the interview.
Oh,
so I found 2 more quotes from him. One's from 1992 and one's from 2007. So it's kind of bookended, right? This is what he says. It was hellish. This is the worst thing that ever happened to me, period. It would be stupid for me to say that I didn't know what I was getting into. It has taken me 5 years to decide on a first film, and I always held out for something like this. The lesson to be learned is that you can't take on an enterprise of this size and scope if you don't have a movie like The Terminator or Jaws behind you. Because when everybody's wringing their handkerchiefs and sweating and puking blood over the money, it's very nice to be able to say, this guy who directed the biggest grossing movie of all time, sit down, shut up, and feel lucky that you've got him. It's another thing when you are there and you're going, trust me, this is really what I believe in. And they turn around and say, well, who the hell is this guy? There are people who shall remain nameless that I was bumping into as I was trying to put this thing together, who put the whole experience into a really interesting perspective. They would say, look, you can have somebody piss against the wall for 2 hours and call it Alien 3, and it would still do $30 million worth of business. That's the impetus to make these movies. You can't keep the people away.
Wow.
And then the book ending it with 2007, This is what he says. I walked naively into this spinning propeller of Hollywood with Alien 3. There's nothing worse than hearing somebody say, oh, you made that movie? I thought that movie sucked. And you have to agree with him, you know?
Oh. He can't escape it.
He can't.
That's all people know him for. They're not like, oh, that Beatles.
And they always want to
video.
ask him
Dope.
about it all the time. And so
Poor guy.
he stated later that the constant studio interference made the film stray so far from his vision that the only way to make a director's cut would be to burn the entire negative and start over. He also admitted that when the 1992 LA riots started to get close to the lab where the film's negatives had been developed and stored. He hoped that the entire building would be burned to the ground and the film with it. That's my popcorn
I think I've
trivia.
actually heard that quote before.
So, and he would not come back and do a director's cut. He would not be a part of any of it.
He didn't even speak on the thing, did he?
No, he's the only time you get to hear him is if they have like the crew was like behind the scenes stuff where he was like
Talking.
On set, yeah.
on set, but that was it. Everyone else was like even Sigourney Weaver's like, I really like him. I feel so bad for him.
Dude, I think I like Sigourney Weaver. I watched Ghostbusters with the kids this weekend.
Gosh, she's awesome.
She's amazing. What's
She's
wrong with
best.
me for not knowing this until your podcast? Thank you, Chris.
Well, do you guys have any other trivia points before we get into beefs and popcorn puzzles? Because that's all I've got.
I don't have any more trivia.
No trivia.
All right.
Where's the beef? Hey, where's the beef?
So I only have 3 beefs, even though the entire movie's a beef. But here, I really tried to narrow these down to my core beefs. And then you guys think of what your beefs are, okay?
Okay.
So first-time director David Fincher disowned the film. We've already talked about that. Stating in the interview with The Guardian, I had to work on it for 2 years. Let's see. Okay, we already talked about that. He hated it. No one hates it more than me. He cited constant studio interference during production and actually walked out when the studio rejected his initial cut and ordered extensive reshoots. He was not involved in the final cut, but his initial rough cut later became the basis for the assembly cut, a longer version of the movie released on DVD in 2003, which we watched. And then on the Blu-ray in 2010, there's a bigger assembly cut with extra footage and extra like effects shots. And he decided against doing that, but gave his supervising producer, Charles I'm not going to say it. He gave his blessing to Charles as long as it was not called a director's cut. With regards to the new version itself, he stated that he has no comments on it and has never seen it. I wish that he would have at least tried.
And never seen it.
That's my beef. I wish he would have at least, after all those years, come back and said, okay, with what I have, I'll try to give you my cut. That's my beef.
Yeah, but I get what he said about burning the negative and starting over. Like, he doesn't want that. He doesn't want anything to do with that. It's not his. It can't be his cut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. My other
a good
beef was that Jordan Cronenweth got Parkinson's.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That's another beef.
not even just for this movie. Just that sucks,
Yeah.
bro. That
Yeah.
sucks.
It sucks. And you know, it's really sad, and I don't mean to bring things down, but they show a scene of him on set with Fincher, and there's a brief moment, and because I've seen old footage of Michael J. Fox, and you can start to see how it's kind of setting in, and you can see this guy, and you're like, oh dang, that guy's got Parkinson's.
Oh,
And it's just really sad because they talk about it. And I already talked about this, but my last beef was not being able to see the Ox alien and the alien queen facehugger. It just sucks. And all the cool designs that H.R. Geiger made. What are your guys' beefs? Give me your beefs.
I love your idea of pairing, like boiling down my beefs into one thing. I just hate this fucking movie. The whole
He
thing.
stole my answer.
I'm serious. Like, the monks are dumb. The dialogue is dumb. The
And they're not
acting
even
is
monks.
dumb.
They're like
prisoners.
leftover prison. They're prisoners of. It's like a maximum security
Yeah.
prisoners that are left over from this like factory that made like stuff like
A smelting factory.
I think they produced like radioactive material, and that was another scene that was cut from the movie. They captured the alien in the Fincher's cut, and they cut that all out. They were supposed to capture it, and then one of the inmates was going to let it free because he thought it would save his life because he's letting the devil out. All that stuff got cut out.
Yeah, dude. Like, their weird religion that they use to further the storyline, but they don't use anywhere else. Dude, the whole thing was it was terrible. Every single part except maybe the last 10 minutes. It didn't even feel like an Alien movie at all.
Creative decision making by committee.
Yeah.
This is like the best example of
Really.
what you can get where you're so far into it and the producer's like, well, we've already spent 20 million. We can't. It's like the Emperor's Clothes. It's like, who's going to say we should just stop this?
If you had just taken any of those other scripts and let someone execute a vision, even if that vision was terrible, it would have been better than this. This was just somehow watered down and meaningless. Even the idea that they're stopped on this weird planet, that doesn't further the story. The inmates don't further the story. Nothing. It's not an Alien movie. This is not an Alien movie at all. Like, half the time they're not even talking about the alien. Why did she have sex with that dude? And why did she say it to him in the weird way that she did? Like, the whole...
It was weird. There's
hot trash, man.
So many weird things about it.
Yeah. Because of the expectations of 1 and 2, I think this is the worst movie I've ever seen. Truly.
Of all time?
Of all time.
Wow.
Because...
That's a hot take.
Because it has the first 2 that it could have. I don't know anything about this, and I guarantee I could have made a better movie. I could have written a better... And I don't know shit about this. You know what? I'm gonna have more aliens. That's cool. Hot take.
The redemption that we get, and we'll get to Popcorn Redemption in a second, but is we get Alien 4. It's not a perfect movie, but it's so much more fun to watch, especially after you've watched Alien 3. It makes it
Seriously?
so much more awesome.
We watched it like a few days after, and I was like yipping and yelling like, yes. It was way better because of this. I hated that movie. I hated this movie, man. Like, it made me angry because it was bad.
Any more beefs before we get into popcorn puzzles?
Oh,
No.
sorry, Ryan.
No.
I stole your
Sphincter
beef.
says what? What? A sphincter says what?
A sphincter?
What? Exactly.
This is popcorn puzzle, Seth. To create some of the wet sounds that accompanied the alien killing people, the sound designers went to Asian markets and bought animal heads and stomach linings. Some of the pounding sounds came from the crew literally pounding on a sheep's head. Real blood and guts were used also for the scene where the chest burster comes out of its host. Because the shot had to be repeated multiple times, all the blood and gore started to smell very bad under the hot studio lights after several hours. I mean, my puzzle is, did we not learn anything from the milks and all the weird things that H.R. Geiger brought in and all the horrible things that Bishop had to undergo, all the
food sickness,
yogurt and crap that he was like living in for hours at a time? Let's go get real sheep's head and real blood.
Them doing that and using real tissue and stuff, that's the most alien thing about the movie.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow.
Yeah, because it harkens back to the first one.
Yeah.
Well, when William Hurt gets douched with real blood and guts.
Yeah.
So I have two other puzzles. One is the Hungarian title of Alien to the Third Power is Alien: Final Solution: Death.
Yes.
A double colon.
Love it.
Nice.
We haven't seen that since the likes of Rambo.
So many colons. I love it. And then this is the last one. We kind of got into it with the Audible extra Alien 3 movie. The first screenplay by William Gibson, written when original director Ridley Scott was still considering returning, took place on a large space station, but it was discarded after Scott chose to pursue other projects. His replacement, Rennie Harlan, suggested a story set on Earth, but quit when Eric Red wrote a screenplay in which engineered alien-human hybrids invade a remote space colony modeled after Earth. Yet another script written by David Towie took place on a large space prison, but was rejected by new director Vincent Ward. However, the idea to situate the movie off-world remained in subsequent rewrites. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 scripts before Fincher was even talked about. That's my last puzzle.
Yeah, dang. Just don't watch it. Go watch the Audible.
Correct.
Go listen to the Audible. It's 1,000 times better.
So the reason why I created Popcorn Redemption was for these very moments where the movie is so terrible. Just like,
I'm going to have to dig deep.
yeah, like the Natural Born Killers, I absolutely hated. And so that's why I came up with this, because I wanted to say something nice. And I found another David Fincher quote that I think really sums this up. So if you guys have any last takes, let me know now before I give you the...
Like, you want me to say good things?
Good things, your final rating, anything you want to tell the listeners about Alien 3 before I give this last quote from himself, David.
I kind of like the scene where she goes and plugs the replicant in and steals shit from him.
Yeah. That one was really cool. I liked all the
animatronic stuff.
Animatronics.
Was cool during that.
Yeah.
Good one. That's a good one, Seth.
The sound effects were really cool when she's shoving that thing in his ear.
Yeah, that whole part felt like Aliens.
That's why I picked it as the initial quote for this podcast, because I liked, it was kind of touching that Bishop's like, we just turn me off. I don't want to be rescued.
He didn't want to be a part of this movie.
Yeah, he's like, please take me out of it.
Throw me back in the garbage where this film goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a redeeming thing.
Never mind. I don't want to talk about it. It's horrible.
What?
They cut out a bunch of stuff with Newt's body getting autopsied, and the studio execs left to go puke in the bathroom because it was so disgusting, and they had to completely remove it from the film. It was so graphic, and it felt so bad that they were cutting up this little
small child.
But that's not what Popcorn Redemption is about.
You know
folks.
what? Here's some redemption. I'll give Newt some redemption.
Okay.
I won't spoil it, but they tell you what her name is, and in the Audible thing, and she's alive as of right now. She may die. I don't know, but she lives.
Yes.
And their relationship is still really cute and cool. I mean, she has some redemption there.
Newt lives.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, so
I have exorcised the demons.
here is my Popcorn Redemption. This is a quote from David Fincher. If we failed to do one thing in this film, and we failed to do many things, it was to take people out of their everyday lives. It's not a scary movie, but a queasy scare movie. And I think people resent that. Actually, my dentist, as he was drilling my teeth,
oh my gosh,
was giving me his thesis on the things that went wrong with this film. And he said, when you go out of this movie, you haven't got away from AIDS. You haven't got away from race riots. You haven't got away from fear or other cultures. We tried to make a movie about now, and I just think in terms of the world box office, we may have chosen wrong. If I make 10 shitty movies, I'll deserve the flack. And if I go on to make 10 great ones, this will probably be looked at as my first bungled masterpiece. David Fincher. With that, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys coming on this journey of Alien to the Third Power. So hit me up on the Twitters or the Instas if you want to interact with the great Popcorn Priest at Popcorn Priest. I respond to every tweet, post, comment, hashtag, and whatever else there is. Let us know if there's something you'd like us to review. Also, if you've enjoyed this or any of our previous episodes, please subscribe so you can get notifications on our newest episodes. I love movies and would love it if you'd share the love. Muchas gracias. Another way to share the love is sharing those dollars. I've created a Patreon account if you'd liked anything up to this point and want to support the show so we can continue to bring these entertaining reviews. Please do so at patreon.com/popcornpriest.
Do it. do it already.
And as always, thanks for listening, and thanks to my guests, Angry Dane and Dr. Dare.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks, everybody. Go watch 7.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, he did better stuff.
Yeah, go watch all
did
of his
better
other
stuff.
things. Mindhunter. Yeah. Join us next week for Alien, It's an Erection. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.